Hey, a couple of things before we get into today's bonus episode, which revolves around safety and stunts. First and foremost, if you're ever on a set and you feel unsafe, talk to your department head, talk to your first AD. If you're in a union and that doesn't go anywhere, you can call your business rep. There's usually a safety line for the union, and on the call sheet, there are usually safety numbers. So, number one is speak up if you're concerned and ask questions. But beyond that, you need the information. If you go to the op.io/safety, there's a bunch of information there, including links that will lead you to the local 600 safety page, which has a lot of information. So educate yourself, and you're going to get out ahead of it. And finally, in today's episode, Mick Froehlich, the operator I'm speaking to, brings up an interesting point that he wasn't aware of any union or guild that kept a list of all of the accidents that happen on set for purposes of sort of seeing if there are patterns, et cetera, et cetera. I actually reached out to Local 600, which is the camera operators union, and they told me that they don't specifically do that, but they're actually now looking into that to see if there are any patterns that exist or to, keep an eye on it for future. So things that are worth, speaking up about often actually lead to change. Keep your eyes open out there, ask questions, and stay safe. Thanks. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. A little bit of a different thing today, and I guess a bonus episode of sorts. A couple weeks prior to us recording this, there was a stunt on a movie in Atlanta with some very qualified people that went awry, and thankfully, no one was killed, but some people were seriously injured. And it occurred to me, I would like to just talk to someone who's been involved in these things and learn a little bit more for people who haven't done, uh, stunts or a lot of stunts, or they're starting out. Actually, I should say for people who are starting out, obviously, and then for people like me, I mean, I've been operating for 35 years and I've done stunts, but I've never like been on a full-on second unit stunt, unit. And I realized there's a lot more that I could know. So just from a safety perspective, we're going to talk to friend of the podcast, I think, at this point, because you've done a couple of breakdowns and a podcast, which all of which were fantastic, and hopefully you'll do more breakdowns. Mick Froehlich, he is an A camera, B camera operator on main units. Operator on second units, DP on second units, and has done, Indiana Jones and huge things and whatever. Before we get into the conversation, the one thing that I just want to throw out there is number one, Mick is not a stunt coordinator. He's just a guy who's had a lot of experience with this and is smart and is safe and knows a lot. And also, bottom line, you're on a stunt unit, you're on a unit where they're doing stuff, and they're just doing stunts. You got to keep your eyes open and make your own assessments on the day. But hopefully this will be enlightening. So, Mick, thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's an important conversation. Uh, Being around that size of a set, of a second unit set, and the questions that can arise from that, like you said, they're very different than being, say, the A camera operator. Even if it's an action movie or action TV show, if you're
Yeah,
working with the actors, most likely you're not going to be subjected to anything where you have to worry about your own personal safety,
that's
at least
true.
not on a daily basis.
Yeah, actually, I would say with the actors, the thing you probably mostly have to worry about is they're not stunt people and it being pushed too far, I guess, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, they're always going to make sure that they're the safest, right? They're the commodity.
yeah.
We're not the commodity.
Okay.
So,
So basically, like when you're not working with the actors is when you probably have to. I mean, you have to be careful no matter what, but it's probably going to be amped up a little bit without the
yeah,
actors.
absolutely, absolutely. And other things are going to be happening.
Yeah,
Pyrotechnics, cars moving at high rates of speed. You know, the the safety sheets that no one reads that are attached to your email about what equipment's working that day, you got to read it. If
yeah.
you're on second unit, you got to read it. You got to know what's going to be there.
And are you talking about the
So,
CSATF things about like pyrotechnics and about even
yeah,
weather
and they
and
always,
stuff like that?
yeah,
Yeah,
and they'll
yeah,
have like moving machines. They'll have a letter about it, and it'll be like, the arm car is going to be on set doing 50 miles an hour. The cars are going to be on set doing crazy amounts of speed. There's going to be, cannons launching these cars in the air, and when they go, they have a really good idea of where they're going to go, but there's stuff that can go sideways.
Yeah.
A wheel
Yeah.
could fly off, a part of the car could come off. So there's the utmost safety is always taken by everyone on set, but things do happen.
Yeah. And so I was always taught with any kind of stunts, it's like we're planning on it going correctly. And hopefully we're making a plan for if it doesn't go correctly. But the reality is there's no way you could plan for everything because at the end of the day, it's inherently a dangerous thing that you're doing, right? I mean, no matter how you cut it, it's just you're diminishing the danger, I guess is probably the words, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I have to say, with the accident you mentioned that happened a few weeks ago, of course, there's chat boards everywhere on every social media platform when everyone
Everybody
has an
everybody
opinion
has
and
an opinion. Yeah.
everyone's pontificating of how they would have done it better and prevented it.
Yep.
And I do appreciate that the conversation starts because then it is in the back of your mind the next time you're subjected to it. I think involving those that it happened to is probably an unfair, trajectory for those conversations. But
Yep.
I will say that one thing that stuck out in my mind when you would propose this conversation, and I haven't been able to get rid of, and I think it's really important and interesting, is the union doesn't keep track of all the accidents and fatalities. I'm
Wow.
not sure why. There is not a log of who's been hurt, what was the injury, and what caused it. Because honestly, I think if that did exist, I think there would be some different conversations that would happen occasionally, especially when preparing a movie.
That's fascinating, and actually, I'm going to look into that because I never thought about that. So you're just saying that, like over time, maybe or maybe not, but there could be patterns that, like every time we try to do some sort of car stunt, more
Yeah,
or
or
more
at
of the
least,
things happen this way, or even sometimes it could be you'd find bad players who repeatedly have
yeah, I mean,
problems.
I guess I would be less inclined to have the names of certain people
Yeah,
involved just because I do know how that stuff can, get taken out of proportion.
100%.
Especially an investigation has to happen no matter what the accident is.
Yep,
People have to have conclusions for legal reasons for the studios, for the
sure.
players involved, etc. So I don't know if that's why, but even
Yeah,
if it was just this is what happened last year, this is what happened the year before, and they're just keeping a tally of these things, and we're saying, oh, because the DGA just passed this safety officer position that
yep,
starts next year for
yep.
them, and they must have a statistic somewhere that they're going to use as a benchmark and then say, oh, by the way, we have improved safety. There have been less accidents on set. There have been
Look,
less crew people injured.
it's an excellent question, and I know some people in 600 and the DGA, and I'm going to pose that and ask that very question because that's a phenomenal thing. But
Because,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, well, because there's, like Mark Milsom was killed in Africa on a movie, and
Hmm.
it was not a thing where they thought that was going to be the outcome.
Yeah, was that a car? I forget what that
Yeah,
was.
and I
Okay.
think so. And, and obviously he's not the only one. That's happened a few times. It happened on a James Bond film a few years back.
Yep.
Things happen. Um, But to get to the conversation of like, well, how do we prevent that, or how do
Yeah.
you prevent it, at least for yourself,
Yep. Well, and I
And
think the one thing I wanted to put in here is it is worth mentioning, and every time we talk about rust, I also mention this, that 99% of the time these things go well because they're happening constantly and they're done well. And even when something like happened in Atlanta, it doesn't mean they didn't do it well necessarily. We will know at some point. I mean, we don't know, but it just means something didn't happen the way that they expected it to, whether it was by negligence or not. That's another question, but
sure,
it's worth saying it. But
sure,
so yeah, so let me pose this to you. Let's say I'm an A camera operator on usually first unit, and I don't do a lot of these things, but I get called to go to do Indiana Jones second unit stunt like you did, right? The last Indiana
mm-hmm,
Jones movie.
mm-hmm.
Um, I know how to be an A camera operator. I know how to talk to the actors, or and in this case probably the stunt people, and et cetera, et cetera. But there's this whole world that I don't really know too much about. So like, what am I looking for, and what are the red flags, and who am I listening to, and what should cause concern, or how does that work?
It's kind of like how did you become an A camera operator on the main unit? It does take years of paying attention and doing different jobs. Like if you get thrown in, you get a call and, hey, can you come do the third camera on second unit? And you're going to be on a long lens and you're going to be far away from the action, but you are going to witness everything and you're going to be a part of the conversations because they'll have a big safety meeting where they talk about where every camera is, what are the potential, blowbacks of said stunt, or
Yeah.
what could happen and why are we doing things a certain way. And that encyclopedia just gets bigger, right, as you do
Yeah.
it longer, and then the questions you are conditioned to ask become more attuned to the job you're doing. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, I've done
No,
a camera on dozens of second units now where, okay, you're going to be in the armed car for a couple of shots, which always has its own inherent risks, where you and the armed car driver and the stunt coordinator and everyone are always in communication of like, here's what I want to do for the shot. Are we going to be safe? And the armed car driver is number one. He is the most important person in that vehicle, right?
yeah.
Because he's in
Yeah.
control of everyone's life. Which is why people get choosy about who they work with. Not just, like a DP for their operator, but like an operator DP with the arm car driver that they like. And stunt coordinators are the same way because they know that driver will put the camera in the position where it needs to be. As long as the operator designs a cool shot,
Yep.
everything's going to go off, without a hitch.
Yeah.
Um, We've had close calls. We've had like background, or I shouldn't say background, set dressing pieces that get hit by a picture car that came awfully close to an armed car. There's stories out there that are way more terrifying than things I've been through. I've had a mortar full of foam and bits that were supposed to look like a grenade get shot off too early and go right through a buggy that we were in that didn't have windows. So like while we're operating, like debris just goes flying past your head at 30 miles an hour and your right ear has now been right next to a cannon. So
Yeah.
you're
Good
like,
Lord. Yeah. Jeez.
and you're trying to hold a shot while the camera's off the back and you're
Yeah.
like, guys, what the heck? But it's human error or it's timing or things happen. But you have to ask the questions. And what did I do? I had a helmet on and I had goggles on. If I didn't have a helmet and goggles on, maybe something could have happened.
Sure.
But
But
nothing did happen
but
because we had.
basically, you plan for the unexpected, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and
exactly, exactly. There's stuff flying around. Hey, you know what? We don't have windows or a top on this buggy, even though there's a Ukrainian arm with a camera hanging off the
yep.
back of it. What kind of safety stuff do we have? And they're like, oh, we have crash helmets and goggles for you guys. Great, I'll take them.
I'll take them. Yeah. Exactly.
And when then
Yep.
we all put them on, and we were all shot with a mortar, and like it was foam. It was
Yeah.
nothing. It was startling more than anything,
But it
but
could have been
a piece
something
of
else.
foam in the
Yeah.
eye, and you're
Yeah.
not an operator anymore.
And I think there's something very valuable to learn for newer operators from that, which is, you have these people there who are experts, the armed car drivers, the stunt coordinators, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're the person who's making sure you've got everything because they may be going, well, he's going to get goggles, and I'm sure he'll, I got 12 other things to do. You got to make sure that where you're sitting as you're looking around, going, what can fly at me, what I have to be protected from, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's something to that. But you were saying about there's going to be a big safety meeting and a big rundown of the stunt. Can you just take me through? Does the AD generally run that? Does the stunt coordinator run that? And what should you look for as the operator to make sure it's being covered?
There's usually a handoff halfway through, and they determine on whatever movie who starts it and who finishes it.
Yeah.
Usually, the AD will start it and say, "Okay, here's the meat and potatoes of what's happening.
Hmm.
The X and Y camera are doing this. The arm car is doing that. We've got this and that." And then the stunt coordinator takes over and explains exactly what's going to happen for the sequence, what each camera's trying to capture. If there's a camera that's going to even remotely need someone spotting them because your eye's in the eyepiece,
Yep.
and when we're doing stunts, it's really, I never ask my dolly grip to be there for that.
Oh,
I
interesting.
always ask for a stunt person for two
Oh,
reasons.
yeah.
One, and there's no offense to my dolly grip brothers, but the stunt guys are always in way better shape. So they know what's going to happen. They're also more physically ready. If they've got to grab a 180-pound guy and yank him off the camera, I'm not worried about his back going out at the moment he has to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's and that's no judgment on anyone, but I've always just said, you know what, I'll take a stunt person for this shot.
It makes perfect
If
sense. That's
you
great
know what I
advice.
mean.
Yeah.
It's not the dolly grip's responsibility to make sure that I live if a car is coming at me. It's his responsibility to make sure I'm comfortable and the camera's situated in such a way that if I need to get out of there I can.
Yep. Yep.
but it's not his job to grab me by the belt and yank me out of the way. I know a lot of guys will ask their dolly grip to do that, but I learned long ago that I'm not going to put them in that position.
Well, the other thing that occurs to me is you say that, and I wouldn't have thought of that. But again, I haven't done a lot of these things. I mean, I've done some, but not a lot. Truthfully, most of what I did was early on and probably dumber than I would do now because it was years and years ago when it was a little more the
Sure.
Wild West. But that stunt person knows how to read a stunt better than a dolly grip does, just
Exactly.
because that's their job,
Yep.
right? And
They can tell if the car is going where it's supposed to go or it's
yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. So they can get you out of there much quicker than anybody. No,
Yeah,
forget take the dolly grip out of it. Than anyone who's not a stunt person probably
that's
can.
correct. No,
Um,
that's correct. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a great piece of advice.
Yeah,
Um,
and I've been in situations where it's not even was it remotely a thing, but I had a stunt person there and they were like, "Whoa, dude, that was really close." I'm like, "Well, you didn't grab me." He's like, "No, I saw it. It was totally fine. The motorcycle wasn't going to be anywhere near you."
yep.
But boy, the wheel went right above the lens,
Yeah.
which is what we
Wow.
all wanted,
Yeah.
and
Of
it worked
course. Yeah.
out.
And
But
everybody
but
loves
it
that.
was like,
That's the downside to this: is the closer it is, the cooler it is, the more dangerous it
of
is.
course, of
It's a
course.
it goes all back and forth. Now, during going back to that meeting, so during that meeting when the stunt coordinator is giving, the cannons are going to go off, and we're going to turn here, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Um, does it send up a red flag if you have someone there who doesn't say, "Does anybody have any questions about the safety? Is anybody worried? Is anybody whatever?" Is that something to like? Would most good stunt coordinators kind of finish with, "Do we have any confusion, any whatever?"
Oh yeah, no, they always, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If they're super headstrong, I mean, look, there's situations where we nobody should have any questions. Like they're all lock off cameras or
Yeah.
hard mounts, and
Yep.
we're off we go. The stunt guys are gonna or run the thing, and the stunt lady on the motorcycle's in charge.
Yeah.
That's one perspective. But no, anytime there are cameras, all of our stunt coordinators that I've ever worked with are extremely attentive to camera.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
anybody have any questions? Does anybody think they're not safe? Or is there something that you would rather do? Do we want it to be unmanned? Do you want to do a remote head?
Hmm.
99% of the time that has to be an option that a remote head can be put in place of an operated camera, especially these days with like the affordability of a
Yeah.
non-stabilized head.
You got a
You
Ronin
know, the,
sitting there or whatever,
yeah,
or
exactly,
Talon.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And these are almost prosumer cost remote heads where you're going to get $1 million shot with a $3,500 piece of equipment that if it gets blown out, okay, we'll get another one.
Yeah. That's insurance, and you have
Um,
two more. Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
that's not that it happens, but I'm just trying to think of, for younger operators or people who don't know, like that's a red flag if they just go and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. All right, let's go. And
Yeah,
as opposed to,
yeah,
and
yeah.
what I've found is like what you were saying, I was thinking back, I've been in a couple things where it's like at the end they just go, so they're all locked off cameras. I'm sure nobody has any questions, but are there any concerns? Okay, great. Let's just go because we all know what this is. But even then they'll usually say, is everybody cool?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually I probably have a little retort to my own statement now that I think about it. There was a moment where I did have mostly locked off cameras and hard mount cameras, and the question came from the AC, and it was the perfect question. Hey, when we roll the cameras and get out of there, who's going to say it's clear?
Great.
Because someone's still got to go in there. Even with remotes and stuff, somebody's probably going to be on the set looking at that camera, looking at that remote head. When they run out of the set and they are all clear, who's calling the all
You
clear? And
mean
then
you
that's
mean who you're saying who is the person that's going to be that says, all right, everybody is now safe and we can commence before
that is
action's called?
correct.
Yeah,
That is correct. And everybody needs to know who that person is because
yeah,
that person ultimately is in charge of everybody's safety. Because at
exactly.
that moment, normally that at that point we're on the AD.
Yep,
And then
yep,
and they say, okay, my people have said the set is clear or the
yep,
crew is safe, and
yep.
off we go.
Yeah, and I've actually, it's funny now that you bring that up, it jogs my memory where I've even actually in those meetings said, so just so we're all on the same page, we're going to roll all these cameras. They're all going to come out. They're all going to look at you. And what do you want? You want a thumbs up, or you want to? And they'll say blah blah, blah, so that everybody knows. And it actually sometimes gets. I've found it gets to almost like the ridiculous thing, but you're just going over everybody, so everybody knows exactly what the protocol is, so that there's no problems.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and the more you do it and the more you're with a certain team, obviously the more comfortable everyone gets, and
Sure.
you start to determine like, okay, is this something we need to drag on, or should we just crack on?
Yep. Yep.
But at the end of the day, you always, and I think I mentioned this to you on a phone call, is you're the only one looking out for yourself. No one's trying to hurt you. No one wants you to get hurt, but you have to ask the questions if you don't feel safe or you don't feel comfortable. And that goes for doing handheld on main unit if you're backpedaling up a set of stairs. That goes for standing in front of a bunch of moving cars that are flying through the air.
Sure.
It's kind of there isn't a scale for where am I in charge of myself and I'm not. You
Yep.
always are, and you always have to look out for number one, which is
Yeah.
you.
And I think I even told you, and I don't remember the movie right now, but there was a movie where it was just literally a car pulling up to the camera and the guy stops and did it. Operator was behind the camera. It was on a hi hat or something like that. And the guy didn't get out of the car. And they were like, well, and he had pulled up, he had put the car into park to turn it off, and he had had a heart attack. Now, that's not something you ever think about, but what you got to
No.
think about is like, is there any chance that this car isn't going to stop? Because even if it's pulling in slowly, the mass of that car, if it keeps on going, there's a wall behind you. That's, so you're always got to be thinking about, you're absolutely right. You got to be thinking about yourself. Now, when it's a car, when it's a car stunt and we get out the little matchbox cars, which is always sort of my favorite part, and everybody stands over the
Ah,
street and they've drawn it out with chalk on the ground. Everybody's peering over the top and they're boom, 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 boom. Do you usually sort of go, okay, so this is what's gonna happen? Are there any variables that we should be aware of that might? I mean, do you ask those questions?
yeah, for sure. I mean, especially if there's anything unusual involved. Like, is a car going to get ramped on its side on the two wheels? Is somebody going over the curb? Or is there a bump? Anytime there's impact with vehicles,
Just
as
impact.
far as
Yeah.
yeah, as far as I'm concerned, anytime there's impact, there's a variable that nobody's prepared for.
Gotcha.
Something could happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Picture cars typically are like found at the junkyard, or some sales guy on the side of the road said they've got 200,000 miles on them. Yes, they go through them and tighten everything up, but stuff happens.
Yeah.
Cars fall apart. They get a hinky hit on some weird hinge in the door where it's never been hit before, and the door flies off. You
Yep.
just never know, right? So, yeah, it's always if there's impact, there has to be other precautions taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as in my experience,
No, but
I
I, I
mean,
I like that as a litmus test. And impact being a car to a car, a car to a physical object, like you said, a car to a bump in the road where it goes up on a wheel. But basically, what we're saying is anything that makes a vehicle potentially lose control is something that you need to be very, very aware of.
yeah,
Yeah.
start paying attention. I mean, look, I won't name the show. I don't even think I remember it, but look at when the stunt car hit the shipping container and it fell on Video Village. And didn't the showrunner lose his
Oh,
leg?
someone
I
lost a
mean,
leg. Yeah, and actually
yeah.
there was another show where a car went awry and hit a shipping container that then pushed against another shipping container, and I don't remember the Steadicam operator, but crushed the Steadicam
Oh, that's
operator.
right.
I
That's
can't
right.
think.
Yeah.
I can't think of who it was, and I don't want to say the wrong name. But the thing that saved him was actually his vest. Ironically, was like
Correct.
but yeah, but
It was like
stuff.
an exoskeleton. But
Yeah,
so
but
that's the thing, right? There's impact. If
yep,
anytime there's impact, you're like, well, hold on. What?
yeah,
Let's talk about this for just a second. I don't
yep,
want to slow everybody down and
yeah,
lose the day, but
yeah,
in that case of nobody ever thinks the car is going to move a shipping container, and then in the course of, and this is where I talk again about keeping this log of accidents. That was twice within the span of 2 years.
yeah. It was pretty close
And I
together,
think
actually.
if somebody would have said, "Hey, didn't that shipping container get moved on a
Yeah,
different show and
yeah,
someone like really got messed up?" Oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't do it that way,
yep.
or maybe we should.
Well, and I get it because like who's going to think that a shipping container is going to move? I mean,
I mean,
I'm not
you
going
don't
to. But
exactly.
what all this comes makes me think of, and I do this a lot, and so I have a question about this. Is I always listen to what they say, and they go, okay, we're going to do this, the car's going to do this, and he's going to pull out here. There'll be one guy here, there'll be one guy here with a camera, and everything. And then I start in my mind going, okay, I know what's going to happen when this all goes right. And then I play the what if game, and I try to think of like what could happen. And the question that I have for you is, you want to ask those questions, right? On some level, you want to go, what if that car spins out more? Should we have this so farther away because it could go over there or whatever? But at some point, there's that thing where you become someone who's questioning someone's professionalism or ability, right? Like there's a fine line. So
Yeah,
how do you
yeah,
gauge
there
that?
that is it is tricky. It's
Yeah,
tricky because all of a sudden now you're actually questioning the thing that's been prepped for 3 months and
yeah,
discussed, and you know, studio safeties signed off on it. I mean, I had a thing happen a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, I guess, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and there was helicopters involved. Not a camera copter, but picture,
yeah.
on camera helicopters. And they're always a little like people get a little edgy around
They
helicopters,
should.
for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. So everyone's familiar with the Twilight Zone. Um, but this was a situation where the helicopter wasn't going to be that close to anyone. It was a large helicopter high enough in the air. And then we did the shot, and the helicopter at a certain point got a little lower and also changed the pitch of his nose to where the rotor wash was beating down as he
Ugh.
flew over the top of myself and I was on a 3-to-1, so I was very far away from the actual stunts of
Yeah.
cars getting flipped in the air and all these things happening. But as the helicopter flew over that, which is in the shot, and then it scrubs off to leave, and he banked over us, it actually blew me off the ground.
Wow.
And the stunt guy that was there with me grabbed me and was like, "Holy shit, that was unexpected." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it was." And I went over to the studio safety officer and I said, "I want to be put in for a hazard for that shot." "Oh, well, no, that shot was safe. We deemed that shot safe before we even started." And I said, "Well, I understand that, but let's have a conversation about what actually happened during the shot." And I explained to him what happened, and he goes, "Well, you're fine, right?" I said, "Okay, but that's not the point. The point is, I
Yeah.
want to flag it. I want a a hazard for the operator. It's nothing. It's $50, I think,
No.
and there's a maximum now of like a three a day or something,
No,
which
but
I
it's more
find
about calling attention to it, right? That this.
correct. And again, logging this thing of like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
if that helicopter is below a certain flight deck, different things can happen that
Yep.
are unpredictable. So that's all. And I didn't think to ask that question because that wasn't supposed to happen that
Wasn't
way.
supposed to happen, exactly. Well, and it's
So,
because you brought up hazard pay, it's worth mentioning. Hazard pay is basically a monetary bump, and like you said, it's 50 or 60 bucks. It's pointless from the monetary point of view when you're put in harm's way. But the bigger thing is, from what I understand, is there's actual like accidental death and dismemberment, which is
well,
horrible.
that so
That
that's well. Here's the issue: is the
insurance that comes
studio
in.
doesn't. Yeah, so the studio doesn't want to pay the hazard because they have to take out $1 million life
Yep.
insurance policy on you for that shot, which means they're admitting loss of life is potential.
Yeah. There's an
So
admission
that
of liability there,
yeah.
which is it's
And
a
now they
weird
used to
thing.
be
Yeah.
yeah, it used to be given out a little bit easier from what
Yep.
I understood back in the day, but now
Yep.
they're very critical of it.
It's weird because
Um,
John Lindley, who I think you know is a very good friend of mine,
yeah,
cinematographer, his point is that nobody should ever ask for hazard pay, and we should all have that on us at all times, no matter what, because we work in number. Well, there's two things. Number one, you should never do something that is inherently dangerous that may cause life or limb,
right,
loss of life or limb, which I technically agree with, although there are things that happen. And on the flip side,
sure,
the car pulling forward to the camera, stuff can happen on it. We do like look. I
right.
mean, I think I don't know if you and I talked about it. I talked about it with someone else. It's like we sit on these dollies with these hydraulic or pneumatic, arms that could crack your leg in half if you're in the wrong way. And I'm always shocked that
Oh,
nobody does.
yeah, or like let's say you're panning 270 degrees and you have your foot hooked under the arm so you don't fall off the seat and the thing booms
Which we
down and
all
now your
do.
foot's yeah, your foot's split in half. I mean,
Yeah,
like yes, like
yeah.
but those are the things you don't even think about that could happen, right?
Exactly.
So
So,
you
yeah,
and
his
then all of a
point is
sudden in
we
the
should
middle of the
always. His point is we should always have that because we're always basically, But yeah, but it's
yeah, it's
worth
just
talking about because a lot of times you'll say I want hazard for this, and I've had people go, well, why? Because of this, and they're like, well, then we're just not going to do it because we're not doing something,
that's right.
and then
That's
suddenly
right.
you're going, well, look, I'm not saying, we've planned this and I get it, and it's a weird place to be.
I'm going to be controversial for just a minute in this
Yeah.
conversation. You can choose to leave this in or not.
No, please do.
The funny thing is, so I've done some shots that are a little hairy by choice
Hmm.
because they needed to be done by an operator. But you've probably not been on second units where they have stuntmen that are in 600 and they'll do these shots that are super dangerous, like land in the middle of a fireball or run
Yeah.
through pyro and
Or
all these things. Or
Extraction, right? A lot of those guys
oh,
were actually
exactly. Well,
stunt
that was the
people. Yeah.
director. Like
Yeah.
Sam operated the whole first 38 minutes of the movie, and
Oh,
he did all these crazy stunts, running
yeah.
on top of a moving train, all this stuff. So what happens though is, as everyone should know if they're working around stunts, stunt people get adjustments, right? And it's based on the stunt coordinator saying how dangerous the stunt is. If you're doing a 40-foot or a 40-story fall, you're going to get a fairly large paycheck for every time you do that fall,
Sure.
because that potentially could end your ability to be a stuntman. That was the justification for what they call these adjustments.
Yep.
Well, a perfect example is the shot on Born Identity when the stuntman runs behind the parkour shot and they jump from a third story down to a second story through the window, and the operator is on a bungee and he goes past the window and he just hangs.
That's a
But the
crazy
shot's
shot.
incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. It was a stuntman. He
Yeah.
for sure got a really nice adjustment because he was willing to jump off a building with a camera.
Yeah.
Now, I'm an operator. We're doing a movie where I'm gonna do what they call a descender rig shot, and so is the actor. So we're both going to be lowered about 10 feet. It's only a story and a half. It's not
Yeah.
too crazy.
But this is
Uh,
handheld, I'm assuming?
well, I'm holding a gimbal. I'm
A
holding a
gimbal.
small
Okay.
gimbal,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be lowered with him. But that's not the end of the shot. Then we're going
Sure.
to continue on, and that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it because there's some composition here and there's some storytelling after the stunt.
Yeah.
But in the shot, not only am I being lowered by two other people, so my legs are in their hands because they're lowering me on a line, which makes it look like we're falling.
Yep.
In the foreground is a man doing a full body burn,
Oh,
and he
jeez.
gets shot and he falls past camera and he lands at my feet.
Yeah.
So I have to wear a Nomex suit because there's live fire within a foot of me, and I'm comfortable with it. It's all fine.
Yeah.
We did all the safety precautions. I had all the equipment I needed, but I only would ever get a hazard. If a stuntman did that, they'd be
It'd
like,
be,
"Oh, that's probably like a $2,000 adjustment."
yeah.
Then you're like, "Well, wait a second."
And meanwhile, the producers are like, yeah, yeah, Mick, you should do it. You should do
Yeah, I have the
it.
operator. This is great.
That's a little ridiculous, but that's a different part of the business, I guess, or that's
But
politics and everything else. Yeah.
but the meat of that conversation really is, if it's a shot you're comfortable with and you ask the right questions and you're willing to do it,
Yeah.
then go for it.
Yeah.
But clearly that's a shot where you're not obligated to do it. There was a person standing by, a stunt person who was eager to do the shot. But it was a conversation between myself and the director where I was like, I think that because we want to try to have this thing be 3 minutes long and not just the 10 seconds of the jump,
Exactly.
let me do it. Let's see
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah.
And it worked great. And
Sure.
it's in the film and it's a cool thing. But um, to go into where that conversation started, I was like, okay, so there's a body burn. What do I need to be safe? Well, do you have a Nomex suit? No, I don't carry my own. Okay, well, we'll get you one. Because like the stunt guys who work around pyro, they all have their own.
Sure.
They're
Yeah.
like racing suits. They're custom fitted, the whole deal.
Yep.
So, you have to be prepared for all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And like I said before, those questions, you kind of don't pick up all of those until you've done a few second units. And just, kind of to that podcast you and I did, it's like, just listen.
Listen.
Listen to
Yep.
the DP and the director and the stunt coordinator talk, and
Yep.
oh wow, what are the potentials of going wrong? Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. I'm glad I'm not doing that camera, but maybe 10 years from now I might be doing that camera, and
And
I
I'll
need to
watch
ask
what
the
that camera's doing so I can learn what the ins and
that's
outs
right.
are and
That's
whatever.
exactly right.
But
That's right.
I think all of this, like, one of the things that I would say to anybody who's starting out, and I know I was there, you're starting out and you're on some lower budget thing and they want you to do something crazy and you're like, yeah, this is great because you're an adrenaline
Yeah.
junkie and you're a kid and
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and say we all haven't done stupid things in our careers. I mean, maybe it's now a little less because I think people have gotten a little smarter and legal has gotten different and whatever. I don't know what the modern day thing is, but what I will say is if you're young and you're going, yeah, I want to drop on the thing and have a Nomex suit and this and that and the other, that's all fine as long as you're making sure that your eagerness is not overcoming your questioning the safety of it, right? And
That's right.
then that it's better to look at it and go, you know what, my gut is telling me that I'm not ready to do this, it's better to give it to someone else than you to do it, and then you're going to the hospital and you're not operating the rest of the movie, right?
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
you just, at the end of the day, you blow the shot.
oh, and well, clearly you blow the shot. Yeah,
You know what
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean? And regardless of, maybe nothing happens to you, but if you blow a shot where the stakes of that are insanely high, because you've
Yep.
got all this stuff, you've got a guy lit on fire, so he's obviously the most compromised
Yeah.
person in the
And
shot. But
also,
you've
by the
also
way,
got
they've
an
just spent a lot of money on that guy for every take, and you've blown the take. There's a lot riding on it. So make sure that, like you said,
exactly
you've been there, you've been watching second units, you feel comfortable with it. Therefore, you were okay with doing the drop and the no mix and et
right.
cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
But I think sometimes in a
yeah,
lot of this, we're our own worst enemies where we want to do the cool stuff, even if we're not ready to do the cool stuff,
yeah.
and it's
But
a plus
it's
and a
the
minus.
same as just operating, right? I mean, you tell people when we do these handheld workshops, like, look, you want to do this job for 40 years. You don't want to do it for 4 years. So the
Yeah.
twisting and the turning, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it with an 11-to-1. Why not?
Yep.
It's 45 pounds of, torque on my spine and
Yeah.
weird angles.
Yep.
And things will happen just doing that. And that's not even with the stunt. So if you're trained properly and you physically feel fit enough to do it, go for it. But
Yeah.
ask the right questions about the stunt, ask the right questions about what you want to do with the camera. And again, at the end of the day, there's still the 1% accident that nobody can predict,
That's right. Yeah.
which, they may find out happened on this most recent thing, or, you know, has happened on other events where there's been fatalities, um, during a stunt.
Yeah.
It's Nothing is perfect, unfortunately, but all you can do is get yourself as dialed in as possible.
Yeah, 100%. And then what do you is when you're the operator and you're, let's just say it's a shot on sticks or whatever, and you're deciding where the sticks are, you're whatever. Are you also specifically checking in with the entire team that's with you and saying, are you have any questions?
Oh
Anybody
yeah.
have any and are you worried? Is there anything I'm missing? Sort of like checks and
Dude,
balances
I'm
side.
probably like annoying to my team when I'm set out there. Like, I look at the focus plural. I'm like, where are you going to be? He's like, well, I'm going to be right behind you. I was like, no, you're not going to be behind me. Go 25 feet away. You're on a Preston. Go up the hill, because
Yeah,
whatever's happening that's coming at us probably won't travel that far up the hill. Or go behind this tree. Like, don't be that close. I know you want to be close. I know the parameters of your job, but nowadays with them having small monitors and they're pressed in and all these things,
yeah,
especially with second unit, it let's get you over there, because I got to have a stunt guy behind me, and if we got to go, he's going to tell me which way he thinks we need to go,
there's
because
only
that's the
one
other
of
thing.
us. Yeah,
Right, and that's the other thing with using a stunt guy instead of a dolly grip. He says, hey, look, if this car goes out, what would most likely happen is the back end's going to come at us, and our best thing to do is go left.
yep,
Whereas, human nature is always to just run straight away from the thing, but maybe the best thing to do is run toward it to the other direction,
yeah,
the
because the
left,
back is going to swing out or something. For
and
he's
it's going to
done
go
this a
past
hundred
you
times. Yeah,
faster.
yep,
Yeah. So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, I'm going to push
No,
you this way.
that's
You're like,
that. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
dude, whatever you
And
say.
and so you talk about with that with a stunt person, if something goes
Absolutely.
wrong, what's going to happen? Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm always like, okay, I've never seen this one before. What could go wrong? And they're like, well, look, if
great question.
when he does that, when the back end slides out, if he hits the curb, yeah, who knows? It could
Yeah,
either the back end will come up over the curb, or maybe the wheel will break off. We never know what's actually going to be the thing.
yep,
Or like when you're in the arm car and you're like, okay, that car on our right side's got a pyro in it. When it goes off, what's going to happen? And the SFX guys, again, also ask questions of special effects. Like, okay, what are you guys shooting at or in front of my camera when
yeah,
things happen?
yeah. And
We did a
well, the thing that I was going to say on that,
yeah
just because you brought special effects, for anybody who's newer in the business, what I will tell you is it will always be bigger than what they tell you it will be. And if they say the words, no, 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 we do this all the time, prick up your ears and ask a couple of
yeah
questions, because I always say,
absolutely
yeah, my uncle smoked all the time and it didn't work out too well for him. There's all sorts of things people do all the time that
yeah
aren't good. Like, let's ask some
yeah
questions. So, and nothing against special effects guys, but what I will say is, when you do something when you do something dangerous every day, it ends up becoming normal, and
Yeah,
that there are problems that come along with that. So sometimes it takes outside people to go, wait. I have a
that's
question about
exactly right.
this. So yeah, it's always going to be bigger than they say it's going to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, great example. We did a pilot years ago, and in the pilot, the robbers put a sticky bomb on the back of the armored car, and I'm on the like 3-1 with the armored car coming at me, and the bad guy pickup truck, and then the back end is supposed to explode, and the back end of the armored car should tip up, and blah blah blah. And I said, okay, so they put blocking cars in front of me so I could just poke the lens between the two just in case the armored car broke off its cable and rolled too far, all these things. None of that was even a problem because when the thing went off, special effects had put so much propane in the armored car that a ball of fire was created, and I lost the armored car, completely couldn't see it.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, I see it coming out the top of the ball of flames. So I quick tilt up and I grab it, and then I land it as it crashes, and all the doors fall off and the wheels break off.
Yeah.
And the director comes down and he says, "Let me get this straight. That was supposed to be a sticky bomb, right?"
Yeah, right. But by the way, it's another great thing from an operator point of view is this has nothing to do with, well, it has something to do with safety, but there's always that thing of like you want to go, so how big is the fireball going to be? Like what is my frame going to be? Because you're looking at something that's not
Exactly,
there,
exactly.
and you're trying to think how much. And at the end of the day, you never know 100%, but at least you have an idea, and
Yeah,
you've asked the question.
yeah.
The question other thing I want to ask you. So you talk to your stunt guy who's on your safety, and you go, okay, if this happens, and if this happens, and blah, blah, blah. And then when you put your eye up on the eyepiece, do you just forget about all of that, thinking that you're probably not going to be able to react fast enough anyway, and this person's on you, or are you still going, I got to look for a tire coming, I got to look
No,
for,
there's still like in the back of your mind, there's always going to be that little nagging, like, oh man, he's getting really close.
yeah,
But you're going to have so little time to react, especially if you're like on a wide lens,
yeah,
because, right, it's deceptive how close that thing is.
yep,
Now, if
yep,
you're on like a 150 or a 200 millimeter, if it's full frame, you're probably still safe,
yeah,
even if it goes haywire,
yep.
right? So you have to also think cinematically, like, well, what am I doing here? What lens am I on? What is the image I'm looking at?
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's going to affect your reaction time, not just for your own shot, right? Like that's something we learn in our operating for action that Jeff Haley's teaching, and I help out with these things of like, well, how do I determine what to do? Because
yeah.
you know how many times guys just over crank a pan when a car does a J turn because they're on too long a lens and
Mm-hmm.
they that calculation in their head was off.
Yep.
So if you're on that 28 mil and that car is going to come up and do a stop in front of you, like the guy who had the heart attack, it's going to pretty much be right in front of you
It's
when
going
it
to be five
stops.
feet away from your lens. So maybe you go on a 35 and you go back another 8 feet or something
Or
or
you tell
whatever.
that stunt guy, like, look,
Yeah.
if he gets close to that yellow line out there, like, you better have a hand on my belt
Yep.
because when we go, I'm not sticking around.
So basically, you give them some sort of physical barrier of like, look, this is the let's get the
Oh
hell
yeah,
out of
for
here
sure.
moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for
And
sure.
you
And or
discuss
they
that,
already know it. Like
or you
they
ask them what
probably
it
know
is.
it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Probably.
Have a quick convo because now they're on your team, right? It's just like when you talk to your dolly grip about when you're backpedaling with the steady cam, like here,
Yep.
this is what I need when it tap me on the shoulder when the curb's coming or whatever you guys do, right? It's
Yep.
the same thing. So
Yeah.
um that would be the same thing to do with the stunt guy.
That's great. That's great
Okay,
advice.
what's my
Yeah.
parameters here? What are we doing? Like the pickup truck's driving over the curb right past me. What do I do? If all of a sudden it hits and the axle breaks, it's like a thing, right? So you got to
Yep.
be ready for all this.
The night before, do you look at the rundown and sort of go, okay, this is what we're doing tomorrow, and this is what we're doing, and so you can start formulating those questions ahead of time. And do you actually even do that when you're reading the script?
Well, a lot of times with second unit, you might not even get the script,
Good
but
point.
but what they do is they almost always have a previs
Yeah.
that the
Okay.
stunt guys build,
Yeah.
whether it be with cars in parking lots or fight scenes among cardboard boxes. So you kind of have an idea. Oh, tomorrow we're doing the gag, or the night before at wrap, there'll be a quick discussion of, hey guys, tomorrow we're doing the cannon with the pickup truck, or we're doing the armor car hitting the SUV. Like all these things are like the seed is planted the night before. So you'd be like, okay, well, I was told tomorrow I'm going to be on the tracking shot parallel to the stunt, so maybe
Hmm.
I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it too much. Or, oh shoot, I'm in the arm car right in front. Like I better be ready for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, typically there's still prep that's involved. You may not have an actual script, but you have a breakdown
Sure.
and we have a
So,
shot list. And like the bigger second unit directors will have even like a mock up or a digital previs or something for you to go off of.
is there anything you carry in your kit just to make sure that you have yourself? Like, I mean, I would imagine you have goggles, but you have anything else just in case
So
other people don't have?
I have a set of goggles I love. I have noise canceling inner ear earbuds that are about the size of AirPods
Uh huh.
instead of having to, because you can't operate a camera. They always, prop guys come out with these giant, like I'm landing an airplane things.
Yep.
And how are you supposed to put your eye in the eyepiece with
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are some low profile ones, like the noise canceling ones that are fine for operating. You can get the eyepiece a little further from the camera, but these inner ear ones are fantastic.
And just to be
Uh,
clear, when you say noise canceling, you're not talking about the iPhone ear canceling that just takes out noise. You're talking about the ones that take out like shotgun blasts and turn on and
Correct. Yeah,
off or
they're
whatever.
more like sold at gun ranges.
Yeah, gun ranges.
You're gonna buy these from like a guns and
Yeah.
ammo website
But
or or
it's
somewhere.
invaluable. It's and the amazing
Correct.
thing that always blows my mind is you can still hear everybody's conversation except for that one moment. I don't know how it
Yeah.
works that fast, but it's incredible. Yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
so anytime like the huge propane popper goes off or
Boom.
the we're not using live ammo anymore, but when we had full rounds inside
Hmm.
on a set, those were invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That a good set of gloves for stuff flying through the air. I mean, it's all that sort of personal protective stuff that like you know what, this one works for me. My head is shaped in such a way that like not every pair of goggles from the prop guy are going to work, or they fog up, or
Yep.
they.
Yep.
And so weirdly, I have like a set of German welding goggles that I got in Europe on a movie, and they looked ridiculous. I look like something out of a bad, like cyberpunk movie, but they were amazing.
That's great. Yeah, and actually, since I wear
So
glasses, I have a set of goggles that are actually prescription, which
there you
drive
go.
me nuts. But in
Yeah,
certain, like not as much in these, but like dust storms and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I can put
yeah.
these on and I can actually see everything and do my job again.
Well, yeah, and
But
especially
yeah,
like, oh, and that's a great point because like with operating a steady cam and you're looking down at a monitor and your head is exposed,
yep,
this kind of thing can happen with stunts too, right? Like you're not going to want your eye in the eyepiece. And I will say that operating off the monitor with a stunt has become a lot safer for a lot of people, and we've all sort of agreed, like, what? No need for an eyepiece. Like if the car's
more
coming at
information.
me,
Yep, yep, more
yeah,
information. Yep,
yeah, you could put that monitor in a way where you're looking right over the top of it
exactly. Yeah,
and but then you want your eyes protected, like obviously.
yeah.
So that's always a thing. So yeah, I would say those are sort of the three or four most important things. So
Well, Mick, this is all fantastic information, and it's valuable to me and valuable to anybody else. I'll end it basically. Well, first of all, is there anything else you want to add, and or just advice to people who are doing this for the first time, and what should they think or do?
oh man, I mean, again, I always deferred to the person with the most experience on set if I had a question, especially if I didn't want to ask in front of the whole safety meeting and look like a jamoke and be like, "Oh, hey, what about this?" Blah? You're like, "Oh," instead I just won't ask, right? And then when you get out there, you're like, "Oh, uh-oh, I don't really feel safe here all of a sudden." You never, ever, ever want to have that in your purview, right?
Yeah,
Before you walk on the set or grab your camera, you want to have the utmost confidence in everything that's going to happen. Meaning, okay, I know what the stunt is. They've gone over it clearly with the Matchbox cars. Everybody's good there. I know what the special effects gag is. That's going to happen. I know what my shot is. What about me? Right? Well, who's taking care of me? What do I need for myself? And nine times out of ten, that's already sort of been addressed. But
yeah,
there's always like maybe one question you felt like you should have asked and you didn't. Ask before it happens. Ask on the radio. Go up to the ADs. Go up to the stunt coordinator. Stunt coordinator won't care. Hey, man, I'm a little worried about blah, blah, blah. And he'll tell you it's going to be okay, or this is the problem, or the stunt person that's with you will tell you this is the only issue I foresee. I think it's going to be fine. Just do this. So, because, again, on those big stunts, normally, just like in camera, the stunt guys got to work their way up too. They're not going to be the guys out there when the car's getting cannoned. The guy standing next to you has probably done 300 of those. It's just like our talks about directors, right? When they've only done two movies, they've got 50 days on set. You've got 2,000 hours a year for the last 10 years on set.
Hmm.
Same with the stunt guy. Ask him, because that's all he does. He gets
Yeah.
taken to 25 movies a year to see this car go flying through the air. So, hey, bud, what could possibly go wrong?